Welkom, ik ben Robert-Hein. I'm Robert-Hein. Shit, I have to do this in English. I want to talk to you about how to create a game with Swift or in a spare weekend you might have or not. Actually, I told this Daniel Steinberg about this concept, and he said, like, the talk I actually want to see is how to get a spare weekend. The reason I want to talk about creating a game is partly because I needed a subject for this talk, I guess, but also because I believe I can. Like, I know Swift. I always play around with SceneKit when there's a new version of iOS and stuff, but I never really built something bigger than some tryouts or some small things. So I thought, let's just take a weekend. Start from scratch and see how far I get in a weekend. Does everybody know what SceneKit is? Raise your hand if you don't.
If you do, don't.
Sorry?
If we don't know it.
Okay. So everybody knows. Who has played around with SceneKit or even built a game, maybe? Yeah, that's pretty cool. Build a game also? Yeah? That doesn't count. So I actually had a Friday evening to come up with a concept, and I thought it had to be really simple. Like, I started projects before, always didn't finish because I thought of something new. So I thought it had to be really simple, so I can implement it as fast as I can and not get distracted along the way. So I was thinking about games I played or games I like, and I played once. It was actually not a computer game, but a real life game where some guys had filled a tunnel with smoke and lasers, and there was a button at the beginning and a button at the end. And you had to go as fast through this tunnel as possible without hitting the lasers. So that might be a simple enough concept to do. So I want to build a laser maze. Where you have to walk through with your character. You have a start point and an end point, which is going to be the main quest, maybe some side quests, some things you can collect. So where to start? So I have to have a character. I have to have levels, lots of levels preferably. And these main and side quests in every level. So if I'm going to need a lot of levels, small levels, because it's going to be a casual game that you can play in a minute or something, it'd probably be nice to build a level editor. So I'm going to start with setting up some data. I'm going to need to run the level editor. I'm not going to live code, don't be afraid. But because I already made this last weekend, I can just walk you through the commits I made. Yeah. Right. So this is the initial commit is actually just an empty project with some dependencies here in my pod file. They're all my own dependencies except for reveal. But it's only the one is for UI constraints, one is for easy observing values, and ease is actually the same as an observable, but then with an animation. And extras is just some stuff I use, just some extension on UIKit mainly. So that is set up. I've got my project. Then I have the wrong repo. That's also great. Let's go to this one. Go. Should I update source tree?
No, source tree always complains that it can't find your password for the last 5 years or so.
That's crazy, right? But only on certain repos I have this. Not on all repos. Okay, where are we? Sorry, my screen's a little bit bigger. Create empty project, that's where we are now. So let's start with adding some data models, because let's get the boring part over first. Sorcery? No, I checked for that actually. But people, also it doesn't really matter, it just says add data models. I can do this if you like. So I created this folder. called game, and I create some objects that are here called data. I use like I created a struct called flow2, which is actually just like a CG point, but because my scene is going to be over the X and Z axis and not X and Y, I created my own struct, so I don't have to think like Y is actually Z and these kind of things. But it's actually just a CG point with some operator overloaders and nothing special, but you'll see it everywhere. Then I got my game object. A game has different worlds and an index. An index is just like it's world 0 and level 5, for example. Then this world has levels. When you create an empty world, it also creates empty levels. That's going to be handy in a bit. So the levels have, when I go to level first, a size. It has like some certain grid size. It has some walls, some coins you can collect, spheres. These are actually upgrades you can collect later. And of course the lasers. Laser is also very simple. This was actually a concept that I didn't finish yet. I wanted to give the laser time interval so that they can those are a bit flaky, so like that you can like walk through it if you're like time it correctly. It didn't get there last weekend, but I'm probably gonna add it later. And then what's also important, this game, all objects conform to the codable. Does it not run? So that I can easily store it and retrieve it with a JSON file. Actually, I write everything with a JSON file to the hard disk. You'll see it in a bit. Because what I want to do is I create the levels within the game, and then I ship the JSON actually with the app. But I'm not gonna build the levels by hand. I want to do it with my level editor, which is going to create this JSON. So next step will be add the level select view controller and a level view controller. That's not super interesting, but you will see that I actually connect these data models in the view controllers. So if I now go here, I've got this menu view controller which has all these levels. When I launch the view controller, it will be launched with a level. We can actually see what's going to happen now. If I start QuickTime, is this launching? New movie recording. Check. No, you're going to see me first. That's great. I told you.
How come you run it on the device and not the simulator?
That's a lot better with SceneKit. SceneKit is very low performant on the simulator.
Like now.
Right now I could still do it, but later on I would run into problems. So I created this view controller, which is a menu view controller. It just has a segmented control, so I can select the levels, which are created actually in the app delegate. I skipped this part. In the app delegate, I first load the game. If I can't find the game, it will create an empty game. This will only happen the first time, or when you reset it. And when I now press, see this, press one of these levels, it will actually create the other view controller. Very simple. I have to speed up a bit. So now I can have a view controller, which is actually my level view controller, where I can set up SceneKit. I also added the back button, so I can go back to the level select menu, and I add the scene, which is here. Actually, the scene is going to be the most important part. The scene is just going to be the game, actually. And to the scene, we're going to add all the objects we need. So let's look at the scene. Yeah, right now it's just a level. It doesn't do anything except it has a dark gray color instead of this normal gray color. So let's add some stuff because I wanted to get something on the screen as soon as possible. So now I created the scene and I created some objects which are called nodes, scene nodes. You don't really have the UI kit here, so everything is actually a scene node. Same as in UI kit, almost everything is a view. So I created a camera node, a floor node, and a player node. Also, if I want to make a character that's going to walk through the laser maze, it has to be like a really simple character. I cannot like make like this fully fledged, I don't know, army guy with textures and stuff. I don't have time for that. So I actually created a box. A box has. I also I was actually doubting between a sphere and a box, but a sphere was going to be harder because like a sphere can move in every direction, and a box can only go in 4 directions, right? No, 4. It has 6 sides, but you can only go in like 4 directions. You can go up, left, and right and back. So let's see what we have now. Check, check. Right, hey, here it is. So I created the floor, as I said, which is the black thing. The floor object standard by default has this reflection to it. It's super cool. And the gray you see in the back, which is actually where the floor ends. That's like the horizon. The gray is actually the background of the view.
What is that circle?
Oh, that's the back button. Sorry.
Ah.
Oh, I cannot click here. I should click here. So that works. We have a 3D view. We have a player, very awesome player, and we have a floor. So let's try to make this thing walk. To make this thing walk, I added a game controller. I very pretentiously created a folder for the moment that I might like make like a tvOS version for this or something. Probably not going to happen. So this is called the iOS controller, and it's basically a swipe gesture recognizer. I use a pen gesture recognizer underneath, but because the cube is placed like this, or I placed it like this, I want a diagonal swipe gesture recognizer. So that's why I have this controller. And in the view, I connect this controller just by adding the gesture recognizer. That's being done here. Get the controller. And this controller, and I add an observable to the controller to detect the current rotation of the controller. So if I'm going to the top right or top left or to the bottom. And when that happens, I also set a rotation of the player node. Okay, did I do anything else interesting in this change? Not so much, I think. So let's run it. Let's see what happens. Because if we have this, then we, well, basically only have to add the lasers and we have a game, right? Then we're finished. Level 0, if I now swipe, we'll see. What? So I swipe this way, it will go that way. If I swipe this way, right? So that works. Great. So what are we going to do next? Add walls and laser nodes. Awesome. So these nodes will be based on the data models we saw before. But now we create actual nodes for it, so I can add them to the scene. So laser nodes has a material, which is just orange. It has geometry. I have to place it in a certain way because the data models gives me a start location of the laser and a vector. Like I'm like it starts at XC 0.2, for example, and it goes 5 points in the z-axis. So, but then here I have to actually translate this to a rotation for the node and the position, and then I place to the scene at the child node, the laser beam, and I do the same. Where's my scene? And here I add like the floor, the player and the camera, and I add the levels and the walls, or the walls and the lasers. Very simple objects. For the wall I just created a cube, small cube, which has a red material, just to keep things apart. And it doesn't do anything yet, there's no collision detection or something. There are just the nodes and the lasers, which I can place according to the model. And later I can easily like just put a level model in and everything will be in the right place.
We don't see it when you...
On the quick
Oh.
one.
Sorry, so confusing it. So, yeah, now we have lasers, thank you. If I forget it again, please tell me. So, beautiful lasers. It's a beautiful wall, you can just walk through it. It's not supposed to happen later, but for now it's fine.
But what is the dark gray thing under the light gray?
Reflection.
Yeah, so this is the reflection, this part. Sorry, yeah. I also like the reflection so stark, strong, that I don't like it, but I'm not really busy with the visuals yet. That's going to be later. But I can I can just walk out the view right now, which is not very handy. So I'm going to bind the camera, and this is actually where I'm going to use this EASE library thing, which is not good for much else than this, but for this it's perfect. Did I change repo? Yes. So run it again. So in the camera nodes, I added a position, and I created in the scene. I created a in camera position ease object, which I can then set the target to, and then every time the cube moves, actually the camera will move with it. There's also some initial animation which isn't not supposed to happen, but so now I can actually walk endlessly, and it will never. It will always stay in the view. And there's like an ease to the animation, so yeah, it's like trying to catch up, which has a nice feel, I think. So next is add collision, so that I can actually die. I already added some states to the player nodes. Didn't really show you before, but this player node has some states. There's a normal state, which it is right now. It can be gold when it catches a upgrade, which is going to be handy later. It can be dead when it touches the laser, or finished when you actually reach the end of the level. Now in the view, no, in the scene, I actually add the scene physics contact delegate, which you have to set to the physics world of the scene, where I detect if a node touches another node. I created a handy method for this. Not very interesting, but that I also had to do this all the time, but now I can just have some more readable code over here. Is everything readable in the back also, by the way?
Sure.
So now,
That's in the back.
yeah, good.
You said it Bakken, hè?
Sorry? So let's see what happens now. Actually, not so much. But you will see here that when I touch a laser, yeah, so now like the geometry is bigger. So now I'm touching it. Like now I can just walk, but if I touch this laser, it will say that I'm dead, which is not good, but it's good for now. So now we have collision detection between these objects. But I still need to add the other objects too. So I'm going to add some coins and spheres. Oh, and the portal. The portal is the place you have to go to. That's like the endpoint you have to reach. I'm going to run it again. It's actually just adding some simple nodes. So I added the coin nodes. That's the other objects you have to collect. I added a portal node, which is purple. That's the place you have to go to. It's now represented by just a box. I'm going to replace stuff with real models later, but that's not important for now. And I added the sphere node. The sphere node are the upgrades. So now I have multiple objects. Actually, now I have all the. Ah, shit! I'm dead.
No. You have to put the quick time.
Ah. So now I have all the objects I need. Also collision detection with all the objects. Not handled yet, but it's there, believe me. So now comes the important part. Like I have all the objects, I have the level, but like I'm not gonna like place every object myself or like think of how the level should look like. So I have to make a level editor that makes it easier for me to actually create the levels. For that, I'm going to present a view controller, which I made. It's going to be not the most beautiful code because I had to make it really fast. But here, no, level edit view controller. What's actually happening here is that, given the size of the level, I create a grid of UI views, and these UI views are tappable. And you can set a certain type to the view. I again added a segmented control for this, so I can choose which kind of tiles I want to set. For example, I choose coins, then I tap the items on the grid, and then these items will be the coins. I'll show it, that's easier.
Why choose?
Because that's how I'm used to work, just adding views. I was thinking about making it a sprite kit, but it was going to take a lot longer. And this is just a level editor that's just for me, for the developer. So it's not important, I think. I know, sorry. Check. Yeah. So I'm still this cube, but I added this button at the top. Which actually gives me this level editor. And well, I have the blue button, it's a really beautiful design here, is the reset. And the red button is the dismissed, and it will actually be saved. And the next time you will load this level, it will still be there because of the data models I showed earlier. So let's add some lasers. I do that like this, for example, here. Then I add myself here. That's the start position. The end position is going to be there. I'm going to add some coins over here. And this is the upgrades you can pick up. And then you will see that it actually this level is created. And I'm dead. Shit. So that works. So now I can make levels. I have all the objects. I have collision detection. I'm basically finished, right? Just like create the levels and ship it. But I don't actually like how it looks, and since iOS 10 there's this really great thing added to SceneKit called physical based rendering, PBR, which makes it really easy to make stuff look more realistic, and actually it's also a really good shortcut for creating lighting in your scene. There's no lighting yet. I'm just using the default lighting of the scene view. But with PBR, you can actually use a surrounding image, which gives fake lighting to your scene, but in a very realistic way. Whoops! Why are you not checking out? Did I make changes? Who did this?
Didn't you do that?
No.
You made a level?
So let's see what I did here. I adjusted the floor node and the player node with some new materials. Well, let's look at Xcode. That's more convenient. So first of all, I created these resource objects. Let's go to the game. Resources. So I created this sky image, just some stock photo. Doesn't matter really. Like I tried a few ones with different lighting, different colors, and this one looked kind of nice because this is going to be.
There are actually some nice ones in the Apple ARKit sample project. There are some nice ones that you can.
You don't like this one?
No. No, but they actually have really like
Cool. That's I should have looked at that. Thanks. I'll look at it later. So now in the scene, I have to set this image. Oh no! Wait. First, I created this folder styling, and I really like to have strongly typed resources. So I'm creating this enum case with string as raw value, and I'm giving the same case names as I do in the asset catalog. So if I have an extension on UI image initializing with this enum, I can just say like raw value exclamation mark so that it will crash if I actually put in something there that's not in the asset catalog, which makes everything a lot better, I think. I'm going to do this with every resource later on, also with the models. I try never to use these stringy type resources. Yeah, so back to the scene. I added the sky as the light environment, and this will mean actually that every pixel on your objects will be influenced by this sky image I showed you earlier. Put the intensity a bit up to make it a little bit brighter. I could have also used a better image. I also added some fog color, which deals with the ugly horizon I had earlier and stuff. So now I'm actually starting to style the game a bit, trying to make it look a little bit nicer. Actually, I'm trying to make it look a lot nicer, but let's start here.
Is that fog just a property of the thing, or is that something unique?
No, this is a property of the scene. So you can like add it's really easy. You can just. So the only thing I did was configure a background color, which is.
Where is it assigned to the scene itself?
Sorry?
Where is it assigned to the scene itself?
This is my scene. This is the level scene. So this is actually the property of the scene. Right?
Oh, right.
This is just a scene. Whoop. Check. So now, like in the player node, I added this new material, which is called the gold material, which is very simple. If you want to use the PBR on your objects, you also have to add set the lighting model to physically based. And this gold is just like an orange color, but to make it actually look like a gold object, you add a metalness. You can add like an image for the metalness, where you can like have a lot of control. What should look more metal-y than the other part, but if you just like say white, it's going to be full on metal. So.
What does PBR
No, gold is my extension on UI color.
I want to add that.
What does PBR actually do? What is that?
It enables the way of rendering. For example, if you don't, the only thing I did for it is setting the light environment with an image. This actually enables the PBR in your scene, but it's not doing anything yet unless you add also this set the lighting model of your material to physically based, and then it will, like if you look at your object and the objects around, for example, it will reflect the stuff you see actually in the sky dome of your image. and that's what makes it look more realistic. Yeah, so now everything is super purple with gold. Great, love it.
And where's the fog?
Yeah, because the fog is the same as the floor color and the same as the background color. You don't see it now, but if I would walk away a bit, you would see the object in the back disappear. See? Oh, fancy.
And what
Right.
is the image of the sky?
The image of the sky is not presented in the scene. It's you can see it like if you have like a really, you could see it in a reflection of the cube, but that's not that clear right now. Sometimes you can really see it. You can also see it like in bigger games. You just see like, why is in Mario Kart, why do you have like these buildings and the reflection? It's really weird. But they're using this this way a lot in games actually. So now actually I'm not very happy with the models I have, like these triangles and stuff. So I was also, when I was fooling around with SceneKit, also checking out Blender a bit. So I tried to create some simple models. Let's see if I can show them here.
2 days, right?
Yeah, where we switched to day 2 at the beginning of this commit. So day 1 was the creating the level and the objects and the level editor, and now we're gonna spend the rest of the day making it better. Yeah, so I create some models which are in my resources folder. Models check. So very simple coin model. What is better than the, I don't know, the triangle we have now? I was trying to make an orange.
Didn't succeed.
But then, yeah, like it was really ugly, and it had so little detail, and then I was exaggerating the details, and then it looked like a pumpkin. But I didn't really like the model. Oh, I can actually show them, I think. 3D models, old. Yeah, right? This one was even before that. So, not, but.
What did you use to create these?
Blender. So I just started with a square and started pulling on it, but eventually I ended up with something that looked more like a paprika. Fuck it. That's great.
That's the end of the day.
Sorry?
Why didn't you start with a sphere?
Putting some boxes.
Yeah, they do. Yeah, that's good.
It's more resembling an orange than a...
Yeah, but it had to be a cube, because I don't want to make spheres. So I wanted to make a cube orange, but well, that makes it look not like an orange. Also, I don't know.
What is the paprika explosion?
Yeah, we want to see public.
Oh yeah, the paprika explosion is gonna I'm gonna add some special effects in a minute. But now first, did I already check it out? Yeah, right. So I load my models here in the game. Just in the resources, I export them as DAE models. They don't have a texture, so it's very hard to see. But it's here. Don't move it. So I added the models and I created this object, which is kind of like the same as the images. So I had to get rid of the stringy type stuff. And I can actually just get a scene of the DEA object or the child nodes of it when I have like a scene with multiple nodes in it. Or I can get the exact geometry. These are just some helper methods to make it easier for me. And this way I can, like, for example, in the player node right now, I replaced the cube we had with this object called paprika, I think. Yes. So now the geometry is just this object. And let's see how this looks. Check. Hey, here it is. So here are the coins. Also the other object, and I can walk around with a paprika. It doesn't really make a lot of sense. This is going to be the end. It's going to fly in the air in a minute. I'm still gonna. Yeah. So now I need some special effects, I think. Am I there yet? Yeah, special effects. So nearing the end also. Oh, by the way, I really like this material of this crystal. It's really easily done by creating, adding a blending mode to this sphere object. This sphere I created in. Which I did the most here. Well, it's just a basic ICO sphere that you have in Blender. Blender. I actually didn't model anything about it, but adding it with a color and a blending mode of add, you will get this nice effect.
Why is it spinning?
Because I added some animations to the thing. So now I added some special effects. I always forget if I actually checked it out. Yes. Special effects are, for example, particles. Particles are really easy to create, at least the way I did it. You can do something like, for example, you add a new file here, and then you can just say particle. And you get SceneKit and SpreadKit particles. We want the SceneKit particles, of course, and here are actually a lot of presets. And I used, like, if I want to have an explosion, I would, for example, choose the reactor and then modify it a bit. But all the particles I added are actually just modifications of the presets that you can find here. Super easy. And you can also really easy modify them. For example, I have this particle, and you can just change it over here. I'm not going to do it now because I still have to run it. But you got this visual editor where you can directly see your the results. So I also added some new materials, I think, over here. I think the materials are really easy. Styling, check. So I have the player material, which is this turquoise gold material. I have the crystal material of the objects. Here you see actually the blend mode and the metalness being set. And of course the physically based. But now we added some special effects. So for example, the particles coming from the crystal. I also added some animation to the coin when you catch it. And particles coming from the paprika itself. If you walk really fast, you see that you have this trail. Not sure why. I thought it was funny. And you see also still the fog being like rendering stuff. But I also added this thing, which Robert was referring to. Where are my models? Paprika explosion. Which is actually, I sliced up my original model. It's hard to select if you don't see anything. But it's actually a sliced paprika. Then I created this node for it also, which I will add a physics body. And I'll apply some force to it, actually in the direction that you're going. So if you're going to hit a laser, like this is the laser, and you're going to walk over it in this direction, I will apply a force like this, so it will actually continue continue the movement that you were already doing.
Restitution.
Yeah, so here, did I only set the restitution? The restitution is like the bounciness of, like, if you set this really high, it will just like bounce away all over. If you also have some other stuff like friction you can set, but I kind of use the basics here. So I apply some force to it, and all these different slices of the paprika will then, which I can actually show you, will fall apart. So here comes the paprika explosion. That's awesome. So now we even have physics. We can also apply some camera effects to make it look even better. I also place the camera in a slightly better position, more from the top, so that you can actually see more of the level. Check. Yeah, the camera effects. So you have this also since iOS 10, new since iOS 10, this bloom intensity and blur radius, which will give the lasers a little bit of glow. And it makes sometimes the other objects also a little bit unsharp.
Why do you set it on the camera?
Because it's a camera effect. You can only set it on the camera.
Yeah, okay.
Make the camera more blurry.
But is it then only
Basically
the
modifying the
lasers?
lens of the camera. So it's
Yeah. Yeah, you have actually a lot of new stuff since iOS 10. Vignette power is also really cool. You also have like this color fringe, where it just like pulls away the colors out of things. Like you can do some really cool effects just by setting some variables. This bloom thing only works when you set once HDR is true. By the way, that's took me some time, but it's working now, right? So I place the camera a bit up, and you'll see that everything is a little bit. Hey, you don't see anything. Great. Should have thought of this. So I also can turn into gold right now. I still had the gold material from the cube. Oh, shit. Yeah, that happens sometimes. I can still also like edit this level, of course. Add some more lasers here. More coins. Check. Oh. Actually, when I'm gold, I can actually walk through the laser. So that's going to be a nice game element. So I can lock the paprika up between some lasers, put the sphere in it, and then it can actually escape. But it will always reset after 3 seconds, so you have to be really fast.
And what is that camera effect?
Yeah, so it's harder to see on the screen probably, but you have like this glowy radius right now, and also this is more bright. Just makes things more bright and more shiny, basically.
Is everything more blurry now, or is it just?
Yeah, actually everything is a little bit more blurry. If you play around with the settings, for example, you have this bloom threshold. You can put this a bit down and, for example, make your textures a bit brighter that you want to bloom on your text a bit less bright. You can play around with it if you don't want everything.
Is there another way to play around with it without changing the code, like the models and like the other stuff, or you have to recompile every step?
You can change the level if you want. No, you don't.
No, but like change the camera properties. Like if you want to change the camera properties, you have to recompile, right? It's not that you can configure camera in a scene or something like that.
No, there's not. Almost all properties are animatable, so you could
Create an interface to
create something yourself, but there is no interface now.
Yeah.
There is some other cool stuff which I can show you. For example, you got some nice debugging options. If I go to my scene view, scene view controller, level view controller, scene view. For example, I can add this debug options. Let's show the physics thingy, physics shapes. I think that always looks really cool. I was thinking about maybe you can ship it with these settings. Because you get these, let's see, where am I? Here. But that's basically one of the few things you can actually, or you get from SceneKit. And this can really help with debugging. You can visualize a lot of stuff by this. But like this list of debugging options you have. Now I change something again. But now we still have this ugly menu, for example. So I wanted to create something quick, but also really nice. So I asked Katie to make a really nice font for me. Where's Katie? And then from that font I created the models. That's also like a really good way to create models. Just get a font, load them in Blender and export them as 3D models. Super simple, saves you a lot of time.
Okay, you did that on a Sunday?
This is, I think this was yesterday. Yeah, it turns out it's a lot of work actually. So I added the menu. These are, so again, these 3D models. Let me show this in the Finder. Yes. So.
Wow.
And the play button, because this is going to be the title screen, and then I'm going to have another level select screen, which is going to look more like this. So I can touch the numbers. Let's see how this looks in code. And also for this menu view controller, where am I?
And how do you get single elements out of there? Is it some kind of path?
Actually, I don't get single elements. As you can see here, I created a menu view controller. I have these items, which are actually the play button for the first screen, and level 0 to level 6 plus the bonus level. And again, in the model, I named these, no, not the nodes, the styling resources. Just going to do like this. So I had this enum, and for all the cases, for example, in the title screen, I named the models. I just did it in this interface. So right now I can connect, because this is called play. You cannot see it probably. This is called play button. So in my view controller, this one, I also have this case, and then I can check when I actually touch something. I just added a tab gesture recognizer. This works with a scene view. You can get the hit test, and then from the hit test you get a hit result, and from the hit result you can get the node. And then I check if I initialize this enum with a raw value of this string, and I check if it's actually the play button or it's one of the other ones. And if it's one of the other ones, it's going to be a level. So now let's see. Oh, and I also added this thing, a Gyroscope Manager with an observable. So actually the menu will move when your phone moves, which I think was a cool effect. And again, I also added the fog and the materials, same as in the other scene. I already had that. And now it looks like this. And it will move when I move my phone.
And gold.
So again, the gold material and the turquoise material from the paprika. This is actually just a push view controller, non-animated. I should probably make a transition or something. Maybe tomorrow.
How did you create like the effect where the different elements move in different directions?
Yeah, so it's actually the same as what I used for the camera. I created this ease object. Where is my ease object? Which is actually just something that interpolates between values. But you can add, but it interpolates with the spring values. So it has a tension and damping and a mass. And I add a different spring for different C nodes with a little bit of different properties. So I use the index of the item to just gradually make them more heavy, or so that's why they all move like a little bit different.
We don't see it.
I see it. Right? And this little coin here is going to be the bonus level if you like have collected all the coins in all the other levels. Before that's going to be disabled, but it's not working right now.
What's that circle on top left?
Top left? Oh, that's again the back button. So you can go back to the title screen. I don't know why you want to do that. Maybe to play around. Yeah, so next I would like to yeah, actually still finish these laser. I actually want these other laser objects, and you also need to finish some bugs, fix some bugs. I mean, and then maybe I'll ship it to the App Store. Who knows? Now drinks. Oh, does anybody have questions?
Are you going to put this code like on GitHub or something?
Yeah, it is on GitHub right now, but it's on a private repo, and I want to open it up. Yeah, no, I would love to just put it open right now, but recently I also discovered if you put something on GitHub, somebody might download it, compile it, and put it in the App Store.
It's only this people here.
It's cool.
We can do that.
Sure. No, actually, it's definitely going to be open source.
Or you can buy it at $2.99.
Yeah.
That's a good price. Thank you.